happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
What is the world coming to? Seems like everyone is running from the truth. We just stand up and fight, walk into the light. We're the people, we can do it if we try. I know we can do it. Somebody asked me, why do we have to go through it? It's just a test of our faith. What we're living day to day. We don't know where, we don't know when, but he's coming back again. Oh, yes, he is. It's leading me. Oh, God, it's time for you to return. Oh, Lord, see. I know. Time to make a change.
Oh, yeah. Time to make that change. You are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner. Dr. West and myself, we have so much to unpack today. We definitely count it all joy to be together with you. And per usual, so much is happening. Condolences, first of all, to the family and friends who lost loved ones in that fatal crash over the Potomac River near Washington, D.C.'s Reagan Airport. An American airline jet, as some of us may know by now, collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter where 3 soldiers were killed and there were 64 people on the plane, and so far no survivors. And if this tragic incident was not enough, you have President Donald J. Trump and his administration peddling hate. You have Republican members of Congress peddling hate, blaming this tragic event on the Biden administration and so-called DEI hires, which has really become the catchword for anti-Blackness, for hate, and for mediocrity. We just need to call it what it is. But before we unpack all of that, the one and only Dr. Cornel West is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Dr. West, greetings to you. And what is on your heart and your mind today?
Well, my dear sister, you started with that joy, and sometimes it's very difficult to hold on to the joy when you got gangsterism on steroids, out of control. You got neo-fascism intensifying every day. It's only been a week or so since Trump took over, but it's just amazing how fast and how quick this weaponized hatred and organized greed can kick in on so many different fronts. And the very idea, I mean, it looks as if to me that there's the Trump and company, they're doing what they can, consciously or unconsciously, to stir up an escalating civil war. Because more and more you can see every opportunity they get, they target Black folk, they target brown folk, they target people of color, they target poor folk. They got the nerve to sit up there and say, well, the crash is because we didn't have the best and the brightest. I say, if the best and the brightest had access to the White House would be empty right now. If the best and the brightest had to do with the cabinet, there'd be no members of the cabinet because so many of them are beneath mediocrity. But for them to invoke DEA, and we know, of course, DEA, the major beneficiaries of DEA have been white sisters.
Yeah. DEI, Dr. West, yeah.
I mean, DEI, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, DEI, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I got so much on my mind. I'm trying.
I know.
You start swinging rhetorically and hold back on other fronts because the levels of attack and assaults are so intense. But the DEI, the major beneficiaries have been white sisters. There's been a number of peoples of color who are not Black who benefit. But in the mind of Trump and company, in the mind of America, DEI is Black.
That's right.
And the attack on DEI is an attack on Black people. Now that's sad because we know it's much more complicated than that, but that's how the popular imagination rolls. And so when you talk about the precious lives lost in that crash, somehow being attributed to DEI, aka Black folk who are have less intelligent, Black people who are less merit, and so on. See, that's the stirrings of an escalating civil war, hot and cold.
That's right.
Hot and cold. And we've always been on the battlefield. We began many weeks ago on this show talking about Malcolm's great speech of February 16th, 1965, the war on Black people. But it looks week by week by week, you could see it getting closer and closer. And we simply have to call it for what it is and try to be ready and be fortified in the best way possible, which is self-respect, self-defense, and self-determination. There's no other set of themes that speak better to what Black people need, oppressed people, poor people, working people, women, whatever group that's being demeaned and degraded. But I must say, just the sense of where we are now after that crash and after Trump, but not just Trump, but his stooges, they come out and reinforce the same thing. I mean, what does Vice President Vance say? Well, we're no longer concerned about the color of the skin of those who apply. Well, that's basically invoking race, Black folk, brown folk, and is reinforcing the worst of white supremacy. And they know it, and then want to act as if they're colorblind. Well, no, colorblind is just a cover for trying to attack and assault Black people, and we're not going to have it. We're going to tell the truth on Truth Time. It's hard to stay on the good foot when you got so much evil coming at you, but we got to keep the joy, because the joy is where the love is, and the love is where the resistance is.
That's right, Dr. West, so much so. And love is not weak. Love is very strong. Love is one of the strongest emotions in the entire universe. It pushes us to fight towards justice. You are indeed. The doctor's in the house, and so am I. You're listening to Truth Time on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we will continue this conversation.
Speaking truth to power and to the powerless. This is Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips. Now I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
I feel so alone. I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself? I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like men.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing?
I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online.
I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy?
Yes, Zelfie can provide semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less and shipped directly to your door.
How do I get started with Zelfie?
Just send them a text.
Text BEST to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text BEST to 200-300 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text BEST to 200-300. That's BEST to 200-300. BEST to 200-300.
To thine own self be true. More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner coming your way right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
So, Dr. West, we are continuing our conversation about the tragedy that happened on Wednesday night when American Airlines, a jetliner, crashed into a Black Hawk helicopter. 64 people were on that plane, 3 soldiers on the Black Hawk helicopter. No survivors thus far. Investigation is still ongoing, but as of recent news, no survivors. Unfortunately, this was an opportunity for the current president of the United States of America to show that he had some sense. You know, my grandmother used to say to my siblings and myself, us, act like you got some sense. And to expand on that, she said, I don't care if you got any or not. But when we are in public, I need you to act like, to comport yourself like you got some sense. And if we did not comply with grandma, there were going to be some repercussions and consequences. And she didn't need TikTok. She didn't need Twitter. She didn't need Instagram. She didn't need Facebook. She said, don't mess up my good name, because that's all I got. And guess what? We comported ourselves, especially in public, like we had some sense. This president and his administration would benefit so much, Dr. West, from my grandma's lessons. I mean, I wish he had a grandma like mine or a grandma like yours, because he would not be acting like this in public. I just want the man to pretend. But Doc, he cannot help himself. This dude, instead of being the president for all people, instead of taking in the weight of the moment and thinking about the family and friends of the folks who were killed in both the, from the plane and also the helicopter. Oh no, what this dude does, he starts to point fingers and point blame instead of saying, we're going to let the investigation lead us to what actually happened. Oh no, he could not do that. He couldn't stomach doing that. He immediately went on the defensive, and the wrong type of defensive, and started to blame the Biden administration and the whole notion of DEI. And I want to quote him verbatim. He said, I had to say that it's terrible, citing what he called a story about a group within the FAA that had determined that the FAA workforce was too white. So he immediately instinctively went to race. Your point in your opening, they say they want to be colorblind until they don't want to be colorblind. See, it works for them until it doesn't work for them. He said that they had a concerted effort to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration. So we're going to even go beyond Biden, and we're going to blame the first Black president. Now, I want to make it all about the first Black president, but since Donald J. Trump wants to make it about the Black president, Dr. West, we're going to have to make this about the Black president. I want to try not to go there, but that's what this man said. And he said they had concerted efforts to get this change, to get the administration to change that, to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration, just prior to my getting there. And we took care Now, I want our family, friends, and frenemies to just lean in on this right here. This man said, and we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans, end quote, for that particular portion. So what he's saying is that all qualifications were thrown out the door. Damn it, all you needed was a high school diploma. And baby, you could be up there guiding planes if you were Black and if you were Hispanic. Nothing could be further than the truth. And this man is stoking a type of racism, a type of anti-Black hatred, because it always starts with anti-Black hatred. We need folks to understand this. And then it expands to other marginalized groups to get his base all amped up, his entire administration repeating these rotten talking points at a time in this moment where people lost their lives and family members lost their loved ones. This is what this dude trots out. I'm telling you, Dr. West, the country should be up in arms, and we should be absolutely embarrassed that this man does not have just even a modicum, just a little bit within him to act like he got, to quote my grandmother, some sense.
No, it's just so disgusting. It's so despicable. You know, when Sister Caitlin Collins from CNN asked him a question about how could you say that it was DEI when you have absolutely no evidence at all, what was his response? I have common sense. See, so for him, common sense goes with a racist sensibility and racist judgment. You don't need any evidence when it comes to Black folk and brown folk. It's a priori. A priori means what? Prior to any evidence. It's just the stereotype. The stereotype will do. It's common sense that DEI was the major cause of this. And he made some references to the disabled as well, as if they were just hiring disabled folk off the corner or something like that, you see. So that it's so habituated inside of his heart, mind, and soul that it's almost sheer instinct that he responds in a racialized way and then wants to tell everybody that, but I'm colorblind and all I want is just the best. All I want is just the brightest. And the levels of hypocrisy have gone so far that what we're seeing is a transparency of gangsterism. You see, that's a little different than hypocrisy. See, hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays the virtue. Because when you're a hypocrite, you still have standards of virtue and you fall short. And therefore, as long as you're a hypocrite, at least you know there are standards. You just have no intention of following through. But when you just gangster all the way down, you ain't got no standards at all. It's all about manipulation, transaction, subjugation, domination. And think you can lie your way through. And then when people respond to you, lo and behold, that's the fake voices. And there's a whole lot of, there's fake news on the mainstream and corporate media. No doubt about that. It's like fake news and the right-wing media and so forth. And none of us have a monopoly on the truth. But if you think that all you got to do is just lie your way through over and over and over again, then those lies become so poisonous in the culture that, as my brother Clifton West reminds me and us, nobody believes anybody after a while, no matter what is said. And that's very much what we're dealing with in terms of this vicious attack on Black people and the vicious attack on peoples of color. And people don't think of white women when they think of DEI, but they should.
That's right.
They should, because they have benefited in some ways disproportionately.
More than anybody else, not only in DEI, but also in affirmative action, race-based affirmative action that was struck down by the Supreme Court of the United States of America, a case brought. Really what these folks are doing, the Trump-like folks, because it's bigger than President Donald J. Trump.
That's right.
People who have an anti-Black sensibility has been trying to turn back the hands of time immemorial. I mean, we always have to continue to fight for our rights in every single generation. It's never guaranteed forever. Brother Bayard Rustin had this quote, and he said, "This country never has and never will do anything solely for the Negro." And he said that in reference to a project that him and Dr. West and Asa Philip Randolph were working on called the Freedom Budget for All Americans, which during our teach-in Thursdays, starting in February, Dr. West, we're going to do a teach-in about the Freedom Budget for All Americans. But unfortunately, Brother Bayard is correct in that, and it exposes itself every single generation where folks try to take us back in time, starting with eroding the rights that Black folks fought so hard, died for so hard, gave up life and livelihood so hard, and then it has a domino effect to every other group. So the fact that anybody would go to the United States Supreme Court and fight to undo affirmative action. What was affirmative action affirming? It was affirming that some wrongs have been done in this country. It didn't go far enough because the descendants of enslaved people deserve reparations, but I'm gonna put that in the parking lot. But it was to try to make crooked paths straight. You fold in DEI to that, trying to make crooked paths straight. Neither programs were enough. But it was something, just a little something to hold on to as we get a little further. So I want to remind folks, diversity, equity, inclusion, Doc, there's nothing wrong with it. And these folks done spun this thing around to make you think that there's something wrong with diversity, something wrong with equity, and something wrong with inclusion. All of these things are very much rooted in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Again, to make crooked paths straight. That did not deal solely with Black folks, but it was about prohibiting discrimination based on race, based on sex, based on gender, all of that. I mean, it wrapped in everybody, Doc.
That's
the 1964
Civil
true. Rights Act. Everybody, lottie-dottie and everybody. And now you got these fools sitting up here. We also have Title VII, Title VII, which is in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We got the Equal Pay Act of 1963, kind of wrapped in there, not kind of wrapped in there. And then we got the Age Discrimination Act of 1967. All of these different acts attempting to make crooked paths straight. So for those who wonder, why do we ever need a race-based affirmative action? Why do we need to focus on DEI? We needed to focus on those things because people from those groups, especially African Americans, were left out from the get-go. From the get-go. In other words, from the beginning, which is why we needed programs like that. Doc, your thoughts on that?
And being left out was just the beginning. Because it's one thing to be discriminated against, it's another thing to be degraded, it's another thing to be enslaved and Jim Crow and lynched, and your mama sexually violated in white households week after week after week. That's what Black folk had to come to terms with. I think what has happened is that, see, Trump and company, they have tried to argue, it's not even an argument, they just say that any talk about discrimination is discrimination against white folk. So when they say we don't want any talk about discrimination because the first group that will be discriminated against is the white majority. And that's why they're suspicious even of the anti-discrimination laws, because they think that it targets white folk primarily and almost exclusively, and it opens the door to Black folk and brown folk and others. It's almost like open the door of the borders, you see. And so when you have things so turned upside down, when the very folk who have been victimized themselves become the victimizers, the very folk who are relatively powerless become the most powerless, you would think the Black folk running the country.
That part.
You see, given the power they ascribe to Black folk, oh, we running the country. You think we'd have 2 out of 5 of our precious Black babies living in poverty if we were running the country? You think that mass incarceration regime would look the way it does if we were running the country? No. Do we have power? Yes. Have we made a difference? Yes. Have we made breakthroughs? Yes. Have we made progress? Yes. How come? Because we struggled for it. We fought for it. We put pressure. Like A. Philip Randolph taught us, you have to put pressure. But we've also preserved our spiritual souls and our moral integrity at our best. Now, we got black gangsters and cowards and black collaborators. We know that. But at the best of our movements, we've kept our souls intact and we've kept our integrity intact. But Trump and company, they ain't concerned about no morality and spirituality whatsoever. They will try to crush us like a cockroach.
My. I sigh deeply so I don't have to cuss a lot, Doc. That's just the bottom line on all of this. I'm telling you, enough to make you holler, enough to make you want to cuss. And none of this, family, friends, none of this started with President Donald J. Trump and his administration. This has pretty much been in the DNA of America, unfortunately, even before its founding. And that is why we must continue to fight. What's that? To create a more perfect union. That means we got to fight for that more perfect union. And nobody has fought deeper. Now, we've had some co-conspirators and some allies, but no one has fought deeper than the African-American people, than Black Americans in this country, to make this country stand up to its words, to its creed, to make them real. Baby, when we come forward, Dr. Cornel West and myself, we will continue this conversation. You are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBL Talk 1580.
The truth will set you free, but first it might raise your blood pressure.
I'm not driving you, man.
More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with more things you should know with BIN News. 67 people are feared dead after an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk chopper collided near D.C. last night. Recovery efforts are underway. President Trump is calling it a moment of national anguish. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams' attorney asked the Department of Justice to drop his corruption case, a common move for high-profile clients. However, NBC reports no sign prosecutors will comply. Texas Attorney General is targeting Costco's DEI policies, demanding their repeal. This follows Trump's push against, quote, woke programs, end quote. Costco defended its stance, calling DEI, quote, rooted in respect and inclusion, end quote. And Magic Johnson is urging Palisades and Eaton fire victims to report fraud. He, Dodgers chair Mark Walter, and LA 28's Casey Wasserman are leading private fundraising for recovery with an initial $100 million pledge from Walter and related foundations. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers' offense was very productive last night at San Antonio. Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell each dropped 27 points to help the Clippers beat the Spurs 128-116. Leonard played a season-high 29 minutes. Ivica Zubac had 21 points and 22 rebounds. The Clippers are at Charlotte Friday. The Lakers are back in action tonight. They're at Washington, a team with the worst record in the NBA. The Wizards are 6-40 and have lost 15 straight. The Lakers won't have Anthony Davis tonight. A good time for the Lakers to regroup and show some mental toughness on their 4-game road trip. USC's women's basketball team, ranked number 4 in the country, is playing their first home game in 18 days. USC is at the Galen Center tonight to host Minnesota. The Trojans have won 14 straight. Trojan star Juju Watkins remains the nation's number 3 scorer with 24.8 points per game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
It's KBLA Talk 1580's third annual Black History Month luncheon, and you're invited. This is year 2 of our climate justice work, and this year's $2 million 12-month campaign is all about linking and combating the relationship between climate and Black health. We already know that these wildfires will leave in their wake even greater inequities, including negative impacts on Black health, given the toxic air pollutants circulating in the air we breathe. So, as part of this year's climate campaign, we're honoring Black doctors and leaders in healthcare at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Friday, February 28th at noon. If you would like to join us, just go to our KBLA 1580 website and register for your chance to be our guest at the luncheon. We'd love to see you. And in case you haven't heard the news, KBLA Talk 1580 was just named one of the semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Truth crushed to earth shall rise again. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, you are. So, Doc, once again, condolences for folks who are just joining us. We are in deep conversation about the crash that happened last night between an American airline, a jetliner, and a Black Hawk helicopter. About 64 people are proclaimed dead from that flight, and about 3 soldiers who were on Black Hawk helicopter. And our condolences to the friends and the family and co-workers of all of these folks. I'm just so gut-wrenching, Dr. West, to lose a loved one like this. And instead of acting like he had some sense, President Donald J. Trump injected DEI and just hateful venom into the situation instead of taking responsibility. And his comments were definitely different from his transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, who basically said, we're not going to pass the buck. We're going to take responsibility for this. I don't think Mr. Duffy, Secretary Duffy, probably didn't get the memo from his boss that he's supposed to blame everybody. But you know who did get the memo, Doc? Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He got the memo from his boss while noting that a mistake was made in the crash, said the Department of Defense must be colorblind and merit-based. Those are those 2 words again, whether it's flying Black Hawks and flying airplanes, leading platoons, or in government. Quote, the era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest. whether it's in our air traffic control or whether it is in our generals or whether it is throughout the government, he said. So again, another person who did not have that Southern grandma to tell him to act like he has some sense. Hexek is probably, he thinks he's the shadow of President Donald J. Trump. Expect him to march to the beat of the drum no matter what, which makes him even that much more dangerous because he is the Secretary of Defense.
And the level of incompetence of the Secretary of Defense is beyond language. So for him to sit there and talk about competence is a joke. It's a dead up joke. It's like me leading the ballet company tonight in New York. I'm simply not qualified to do that. He's not qualified. For Trump to sit up there and talk about qualifications and competence and so forth, but he's elected, given the corrupt system that we have, where it's selected by big money, and then people have a choice between two truncated options that have little to do with poor people and working people and so forth. But it's just amazing to me to see these folk raising the issue of merit and competence and brilliance and excellence. And they exemplify the very opposite and think they can get away with it. But let's just be honest, if people can sit around and see genocide in real time in Gaza, then you can imagine folk seeing an empire undergoing decay, decline, and its fall, which is what we are witnessing in real time. And our challenge every day and every week is to keep that memory in place, so we recall those who came before, who fought and served and sacrificed, that have solidarity with the folk who are being pushed against the wall, in the language of the great Howard Thurman, and then to keep ourselves intact. Because see, the aim and end of Trump and company is to so thoroughly break our spirits that we feel as if we have absolutely no power, no agency, no possibility of speaking the truth and fighting for justice. And once they break that spirit, then the battle's over. And thank God we got millions of folks, not just around the LA area, but around the country and the world, that see through the lies, that keep track of the crimes, and will go down fighting.
Yeah, and bearing witness to this, because we need some witnesses. What they say, the host of witnesses. And when history is written on this, it is going to tell the entire story. The other side of this story is the point that you're making, Doctor, that there are people of good consciousness who are going to stand up and fight back in our time, so that when the story is told, it will be told in a holistic way of people not just standing for this mischief and mayhem that the Trump administration is stirring up. And there's nothing worse than to have fools who got power. And this is the moment that we are in, not the first moment that we've been here.
That's true.
Not the last moment that we're going to be here. And that is why we need an opposite. What is that? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a yin to the yang. We need conscious-minded folks to be the yin to the yang and just not let this stuff be put out there and these things to be done without fighting back against not just this administration, but the spirit that created this administration. It does go back, and ad nauseum, Doc, I know some folks are saying, Senator Turner keep talking about neoliberalism and neo-fascism. No, this is true. The two are connected. Neoliberalism got us to this moment. It got us to a place where people were so desperate that they would accept a faux populism because there was no real populism, that they would accept, Doc, in your word, the gangster, because there was no opposite to that, to change and to take on systems and to lift people's material conditions. So here we are. And all of those neoliberals with fancy title, they're going to be all right. But you know who's not going to be all right? Big Mama and Big Papa in the hoods all over this country, and their children and their children's children will not be all right if those of us of good consciousness sit back and allow this to continue to happen. And so the Trump administration is just a manifestation of what has been bubbling up in this country all along. And you know, that I got to say, some Democrats tried to play with this. They did. They tried to just, you know, play politics with this instead of doing the right thing and saying, you know what, let an investigation ensue. You know, make a few comments about Trump coming in like the Tasmanian devil that he did. But instead of going straight anti-Trump like they did through the entire election cycle, that's what they did. The entire election cycle. You were running as a beacon of hope, didn't want none of that. We had other folks running, they didn't want none of that. They was just defending what they had done, and look what we got. This is problematic. So for some on the Democratic side to just go at Trump without recognizing that people died and family members are suffering is just, it's wrong all day long.
No, I mean, it's clear that the Democrats, they're shattered. They have no vision, strategy, or tactics. But they brought it on themselves. They brought it on themselves. And neoliberalism was an attack on poor people, an attack on working people, and a transfer of wealth from poor and working people to the well-to-do. And you can make it colorful and multicultural, but the poor people and the working people, disproportionately Black and brown, suffered. They were looking for an alternative, and they chose the neo-fascist alternative with Trump rather than the left-wing populist alternative of Bernie Sanders within the Democratic Party. And it was very clear that the Democratic Party is so thoroughly dominated and colonized by big money that they were going to defend an unjust status quo, which they did, and they lost.
That's right.
So they reinforced the corrupt system, tied to big money, and unable to mobilize enough citizens to vote for them. And we end up in this nightmare.
Where we are today, serving the same masters. When we come forward, Dr. Cornel West and I will continue this conversation. You're listening to Truth Time on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580. 1580.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
This is where love and truth meet.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
Yes, you are. And Dr. West and I are doing a deep dive into the machinations of politics gone wrong when you don't even have the good sense that God gave you to know how to act like you have some sense when we have a tragedy of this magnitude. And instead of lifting up the pain and the loss of those families and centering them, you decide, Mr. President, along with some members of your administration, to blame this tragedy on DEI and to continue to stoke the flames of anti-Black racism and the marginalization of other populations of folks. You know, Dr. West, and it haven't even been 2 weeks. I mean, this is exhausting. You know, I get lots of messages, which I'm sure you have too, about how exhausted people are already. I think this is part of the Trump strategy. You ask me.
No, it's true. It's true. When you saw the Steve Bannon and others say, throw as much SHIT as you can out there. I'm in a faculty meeting just yesterday, and faculty members are telling me in their place, they live in Latino communities, you got ICE folk on the corner, they got various teams coming in. A number of the folk they've taken in are citizens. They just look, they are Latino, so they look like they're undocumented. You see, so that's part of the repressive policies of what a neo-fascist project is all about. Of course, they will say, we're concerned only with the violent ones who committed crime. Sure, we understand. Please, we know. We born that night, but not last night. You getting all their cousins, their grandmamas, their daddies. Some of them been here for many years, others born here. The kids scared to go to school. That's on one side. Then you got the anti-racism against Black people in terms of the first response to this ugly event of people being killed with the plane crash. Then you got the attacks on the trans. Then you got the attacks on the working classes in terms of trying to derail various efforts for unions gaining the right to organize and replacing the people on the National Labor Board Relations. The National Board of Labor Relations.
Labor Relations Board.
So it's on so many different fronts. Just keep throwing the SHIT out there so people can completely overwhelm. Well, I tell you, this too shall pass. We're going to make it through. We're going to end up with light on the end of the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel. But at the moment, it's nightmarish. It really is.
And we always do end up with light at the end of the tunnel. You know, there's a saying, it's not mine, so let me just say that sometimes storms don't come to destroy you. They come to clean some stuff out. And I do believe that this storm is going to cause an awakening in this country of the likes that we have not seen in a very long time. It is time for everyday Americans who are conscious, who believe in justice in all of its forms, to get off the sidelines and to stand up and to do something. We should have done this a long time ago. But oftentimes when power presents itself all dressed up nice and neat, and when power comes knocking at your door with a smile, woo, you you don't look behind the veil as closely. But now that we got power coming in there like a hurricane, like a tornado, some folks gonna take notice. Whereas they didn't take notice that presidencies before this didn't do anything to provide comprehensive immigration reform. Congresses before this did absolutely nothing. Or let me just back that up. They did the bare minimum, but because it came all nice, wrapped in a smile in a nice suit, Doc, we didn't want to pay attention to it. Since power couldn't pass the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, right, or get paid medical leave and child care and increase the federal minimum wage and pass universal health care because the suits were nice and crisp and the smile. I want to have a beer with this person. Oh, this person reminds me of my uncle or my grandpa. All of that. See, it was pretty. So let us not say nothing because it's the first Black president. Don't say nothing during the first term. Okay, we're going to give you a pass. Don't say nothing during the second term. And then don't say nothing on the campaign trail. Don't make no demands, Black community. Just go on out there and vote. Don't worry about what's happening in the Gaza, even though the overwhelming majority of the Democratic voters said we ain't down for it. Don't y'all say nothing. Shh, don't say nothing. Even though the majority of voters in swing states in the United States of America, according to Poland, believe that we should have Medicare for all by name. Shh, we ain't gonna say nothing about that. Because it was all suited up, Doc, with a smile.
And pay master money.
That's it.
The money flowing, you see.
Not say nothing, but now that it's swirling, baby. Woo! Hey, Dr. West and I are on fire. You're listening to Truth Time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. Santa Anita Park in Arcadia is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up anything from clothing to food and hygiene supplies. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries, Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt Purcell and Diggs, Jasmine Canick, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires. The impacted Black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe, and donate to help Black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Truth shall rise again. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, I was swinging to the groove a little bit during that break. Listen, my Nina note today is that there is promise in the problem, and I know it may not seem that way. And I'm channeling Minister Malcolm X today, Doc, and this quote is like really on my heart in our last like 2 minutes and 30 seconds or so. He said, I'm for truth no matter who tells it. I'm for justice no matter who it is for or who it is against. I'm a human being first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. And that, my friends and family, is where we have got to center ourselves. Doc, the last 60 seconds or so, passing it to you.
What our dear brother Malcolm, he says it all. Truth, justice. He says, as a human being and a Muslim and a black man, I'm opening my arms for alliance and solidarity, but anybody who's for truth and justice. And I just say in the language of Fannie Lou Hamer, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. God going to give it to me. And it is not just a gift, but it's a task. It's a task of serving people. It's a task of telling the truth. Truth time. It's a task of seeking justice, no matter how nightmarish our realities are.
In all of its forms, if all of us can be for truth, no matter who tells it. And sometimes we quantify it. It depends on, some people are for truth depending on who's telling it and who it's for. And if somebody else is telling it that they don't like, then they just say they turn away from it. And that is not how we should be. We are first and foremost, as Minister Malcolm X said, human beings. And as such, we ought to stand up for humanity. Well, that's our time on Truth Time. Thank you so much. All joy for you all to be with us today. We cannot wait. We cannot wait to have joy with you at another time. Take good care. Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. 67 people are feared dead after an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk chopper collided near D.C. last night. Recovery efforts are underway. President Trump is calling it a moment of national anguish. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams' attorney asked the Department of Justice to drop his corruption case, a common move for high-profile clients. However, NBC reports no sign prosecutors will comply. Texas Attorney General is targeting Costco's DEI policies, demanding their repeal. This follows Trump's push against, quote, woke programs, end quote. Costco defended its stance, calling DEI, quote, rooted in respect and inclusion, end quote. And Magic Johnson is urging Palisades and Eaton fire victims to